Hey girls, I'm Jacinta,
I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Alexi.
and you're listening to Strange Colony.
Fight me. You started this.
You're right, I know I did.
I don't
Okay.
know what's happening.
I don't know what's happening.
Me every day of the week.
All of that.
Yep.
So, girls, today we're here to discuss Dulcie May Markham, also known as Pretty Dulcie, the Angel of Death, and the Black Widow. Bum, bum, bum.
Ooh. Sounds saucy.
I know, doesn't it?
And I've seen the picture. She's stunning.
Oh, absolutely gorgeous.
This woman is goals.
Absolutely. Well, some of it anyway.
Never know. Depends on how you align your goals.
She might be my, fucking cream aesthetic.
So, according to the Daily Mirror, Dulcie May Markham saw more violence and death than any other woman in Australia's history.
That's pretty
Exciting.
wild.
I know, pretty big claims, right?
Humongous.
As you can tell already, no doubt, she was very much painted as your femme fatale, your Black Widow, your dangerous woman. So let's see if she actually earned that name. You be the judge.
So far, she still sounds like goals.
Now, admittedly, she did have convictions in 4 Australian states.
Badass.
Absolutely. For fun things like prostitution, keeping a brothel, drunkenness, vagrancy, and consorting. Oh, we're still at Goals Point at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah,
I'd say so.
Yep.
This is exactly where I want my life to head.
I'm down for vagrancy.
I want consorting.
Everything but drunk.
Yeah, sure.
Well, look, having control over things is good, you know? Bit too much of a control freak for that.
So Dulcie May Markham was a prominent prostitute and associate of gangland figures in the Sydney's 1940s and 50s during what was called the Razor Gang era.
Wait, didn't they do an Underbelly season based on this?
Quite possibly. I admit this is terrible. I never watched Underbelly.
Look, neither have I, but my partner did mention it a few times, so I think I might just have to drag him into watching it with me, so that way I can get the glamorized scoop of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been thinking more and more that it might be something we should look into, invest in. So just a bit of history on the Razor Gang. So it was in the late 1920s and early 30s that it was primarily violent gangs waged war to rule the Sydney underworld. Many of them used cutthroat razors as a weapon of choice because of the strict banning of pistols in 1927.
And they would cut deep.
I've cut myself on a cutthroat razor before.
Ooh.
That it's quick.
It definitely cuts deep.
So these criminal empires were built on sly grog, which is illegal grog because that was Prohibition era, cocaine, prostitution, gambling, extortion, all the fun things of life, right?
Goals.
Now the thing is that during this time there were actually 2 leading figures that were female, and they're not who we're talking about today, but worth a mention. There was the London-born Matilda Tilly Devine, who was basically it and a bit when it came to prostitution. Like, she was the madam. And then there was the Dubbo-born Kate Lee, who was basically in your liquor. She was a sly grog dealer, if you will.
I'm sorry, I'm just giggling at sly grog.
Sly grog. That is such an Aussie term, isn't it?
It really is. It's like, what's that in your water bottle? Oh, some sly grog.
Just got some sly grog in here, mate.
I feel like that is definitely something that has happened at a lot of high schools.
Except it was goon. Why do I think this is the precursor to goon?
It's probably the precursor to gloom, yeah.
You know you've had a wild night when you ended up plastered on for dyslexia.
And you woke up using the bloody thing as a pillow.
Oh God, the goon bladder.
Yep.
Y'all had far more eventful teen years than I did.
I say this only from secondhand experience. I was the boring teenager. My sister was the one that went out partying.
Oh, okay.
I was too busy on the internet.
She's throwing you under the bus, son. Throwing you right under.
My sister knows what she was. She had fun.
And that's the way to do it, honestly. Get it out of your system while you're young. As long as you survive it, it's all good, right?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Trying to bounce back from alcohol in your 20s and 30s, not so easy.
I have 3-day hangovers now.
Yuck.
Yeah. But getting back to Dulcie May, she was described by media, and this is a direct quote from the Sunday Mail. She was tall, slim, with beautiful, naturally wavy blonde hair, perfect skin, bewilderingly pretty baby blue eyes, and whenever she appeared in court, she caused a sensation. I mean, you've seen the picture. She is gorgeous, but damn, they've really played it up.
I bet she did cause a sensation, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. You see, born in the inner city suburb, Sydney suburb, Surrey Hills, on the 27th of February 1914, to a John Markham and Florence Millicent Nee Parker, surprisingly little is actually known about her formative years of a woman who was notorious for her time. Now, one of the detectives later on said that even the papers kept her parents' names out of it because she had actually come from a reasonably respectable, not like socialite status, but respectable family. And she herself kept her family name out of it as much as she could. Which is interesting because she became a prostitute at 15 years old.
Daddy issues.
That's quite young to be doing that.
Not as bad as it would be now, I dare say, given we're talking, 19... God, addition, math me here. 14 plus 15. 29. 1929.
Snap.
So she actually became one of the best earners for Tilly Devine. And she became the best known gangster's mole by the time she was 18.
I'm sorry, Gangster's Mole?
Gangster's mole. They were the lasses that were seen on the arms of the powerful criminal men.
It's the Australian version of a mob girl.
Oh, yeah. I think they call them moles in America too, actually, in that time period.
Oh, really?
I can only hear the term mole and remember back in like the early 2000s, someone be like, I am mole.
She's
like
such a
a
mole.
derogatory term that you hear some very heavily ethnic girl go on with.
Mole as in M-O-L-L, not mole as in M-O-L-E.
Well, there's the difference.
Who was it? It was someone on Big Brother, wasn't it? I reckon
Sarah Marie.
Yes.
And she did the bum dance.
I remember the bum dance. I lived for the bum dance.
I think everyone did, and they'd walk around in pajama pants with bunny rabbit ears on.
Oh
that was the thing that really didn't need to happen, but it did.
I would still do it.
Oh, I'd do it for shits and gigs these days.
I should do it for TikTok.
Do it.
Let's see if we can trend. That's highly unlikely. I'm not very popular on there.
I wonder why.
Let's not get into analysing that. Back to Dulcie, damn it. Feeling a little called out.
I keep misunderstanding the name. I read it the first time. I was like, Dolce?
As in
being a bit
Gabbana.
fancy.
I've actually known a Dulcie before, so that's probably got something to do with it.
All right, well, at least that explains it, because my brain was like Dolce and Gabbana.
Yeah.
Not Cabana, like Cabanossi.
Num.
Oh, man.
Order nums.
I love Cabana.
I love Cabana too. It's good meat.
I like sausage.
I know you do.
Oh, God.
So
Moving on.
just like Vanessa, this woman wasn't just attracted to dangerous men. They were just as attracted to her. That is literally the next line I was going to say. So that worked in well.
I feel attacked.
Shots fired.
Oh, fuck yeah.
At the time, she was the most expensive prostitute around. She cost £2 for her service, and at the time that was about half a weekly wage of a man and a few shillings less than the average wage for a week for a woman.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Bosh.
Yep. She was a raking in the coin.
Oh yeah. She was pretty enough for it, so that's the thing.
Oh, you've got to think it's got to be more than just being pretty then, though, surely.
Pretty and talented at her job.
Savvy sales.
And she just had this habit of creating an allure. There's something about her. There's definitely one of those something about her kind of vibes. Honestly, it's the same with the woman who was her most prominent competition at the time, Nellie Cameron, who I will mention later. In 1931, she got involved with a lad named Cecil William McCormack. Now, she said she was not present when he was killed after being stabbed in Sydney by Alfred Dillon during a brawl, which was apparently a direct result of both men wanting her attentions.
Still goals.
However, it was said that when a friend of hers arrived at the theatre that she was at and let her know what had happened to Cecil, she went and ID'd the body calmly and then left to do her own thing.
Casual as.
Casual, cold as ice. Now,
Still gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Alfred Dillon received a 13-year sentence for manslaughter as it was the result of a brawl and it wasn't, just, I'm going to kill you. And McCormack received a big gangster funeral. I don't know that would have made him feel better because apparently the reason it came about was that Dulcie had been involved with Cecil first and he'd served some time in prison and in the interim she'd shacked up with Alfred, and when Cecil got out and you can see how that flowed on.
Oh boy.
Indeed. Now in 1936 she married Frank Bowen, who was a sideshow worker. This was her first marriage. Note first. She also received her first charge for falsifying a telegram on behalf of her husband. Petty stuff. Yeah, I know, right? Now, in 1937, she took on a new lover. Yes, she was still married.
Living her best life.
Absolutely. She quite frequently in her early years had both husband and lover on the go at the same time.
I just want to know how she has that much time.
Oh, she just left the husband to go shack up with another dude.
No, but it's like, she's got a husband, she's got a boyfriend, and she's working in a brothel.
Yeah.
My vagina hurts just thinking about it.
Can't relate.
No. You can tell who the hoes in the group are.
Hey, look, this is even after the relationship I had with the Fiend, where it was every day, usually multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
But, oof.
No, I dare say she picked and chose. I mean, she didn't really need to work that much in order to make bank if she's making half a weekly wage in one hit. Plus, I'm assuming the husbands would have to be paying to keep her to some degree, and she's involved. Her lovers were some of the most powerful men in the underworld, so she'd be well kept. Work when you want to, I guess. So the man she was involved with in 1937 was Arthur Kingsley Taplin, and she moved to Melbourne to go live with him. However, she was in Western Australia when he was killed by shooting in King's Cross, Sydney, by Harcourt Lee, which this one had nothing to do with her. It was just, comes with the territory of being a gangster. But that happened in 1938. He died. So that was her second lover that was murdered.
Wow, that's quite unfortunate.
Yes.
Should we start
And
keeping a scorecard?
Oh, here's the thing. There's
Do
a
it.
bit of a crossover point because in 1936, the same year that she married her first husband, she also became involved with Guido Coletti, who was the self-styled king of the underworld. He had a habit of bashing and robbing in dark lanes after a long tutelage as a child delinquent, and he'd, since graduated into an adult criminal. But he was also the husband of her main competition in sex work. Oh
Wait.
yeah. Oh yes.
Wait. Circle back around?
Okay.
For those
So
in the back.
her third lover during that period of time of note was like king of the underworld at the time
Mm-hmm.
and the husband of her main competition.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that whole, oh, you think you can compete with me in sex work? That's fine. I'll fuck your husband.
Savage.
So savage.
Queen.
So savage. Oh my god.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nellie Cameron, that's as I mentioned earlier, was the other prominent sex worker at the time. Now it was basically these two women. There were other prostitutes at the time, but none of them came anywhere near of note.
Well then.
Now remembering that lover one, Arthur Taplin, died in 1938. In 1939, uh, sorry, this makes me laugh because of the time frames are just so messy and convoluted. Dulcie was at a house party with 12 other people, and Guido Coletti was shot and killed. So she was actually present for this one. She was there as his date.
Unfortunate.
Yes. Now, this one actually hurt her. Well, bear with me. Coletti received the biggest gangster funeral ever in Australian history. There were 5,000 people who filed past his coffin at the mortuary, and more than 200 wreaths got stacked around it. Now, according to the media, Dulcie was said to have made a grand entrance and sobbed piteously on the coffin the entire time. So,
That's a scene.
it's a scene. It's a scene. Whether or not it was calculated or if she was genuinely hurt, grieving, I guess there isn't really much way to tell.
I think the only way we would be able to tell was if we were there. If she flung herself onto it like a Disney princess falling down to cry, then I'd say it was fake. That being said, you really can't judge how people mourn.
Oh no, I did actually attend a funeral once where the wife of the person who had died did actually fling herself onto the coffin as they were lowering it. It was really hard to watch.
Heartbreaking. Then.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. Which, I completely understand, I'd probably do the same. So I suppose we can't really tell, even if it was dramatic, whether or not that was just her way of expressing or if she was being calculated in her response to get as much exposure as possible, because clearly she got a lot and she was quite good at it.
There's a lot to consider with that. But again, can't judge based on how people mourn. Everyone's very different.
Absolutely. So in 1940, she was actually charged with assault with actual bodily harm.
Ooh.
Oh.
There's nothing else really about that except that she absconded prior to the trial and that left a warrant out for her arrest.
So there's no word on what she did?
No. Although there was records saying that she had been charged with assaulting both the public and police officers.
I'm trying to picture what happened. What did you just kind of that scene in The Simpsons where Lisa and Bart are like, I'm gonna do this with my arms, and if you get hit, that's your own fault. She's just doing that around town, just like windmilling her arms and kicking, and then like people are walking into her. Or
I have no idea.
I'm curious.
In my head, and this is the way I'm envisioning it. She's out being that gangster mole self, and the police come in to pick up her latest beau, and she hits them over the head with a handbag or a purse or something. Or like a barroom brawl breaks out, and she smacks someone over the head with a bottle. You know, the ones in the scene?
That would make. I guess that's a thing. Might have to see if that sort of thing shows up in a Underbelly. Not that that's an advert, but hey, if they want to, pay us to do that, by all means. Inbox us. Our email is strangecolony@gmail.com.
Shameless self-promotion.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hells yes.
Need to hustle that cheddar.
Love that
I like
term.
cheddar.
So do I.
And brie. And camembert.
I prefer camembert. Camembert's better than brie, fight me.
I like the old aged cheese, like the extra sharp. I like Swiss. I like all cheeses. I don't discriminate. I even like blue cheese.
The only cheese I can't eat is goat's milk cheese, and that's because it will kill me.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No good.
Just extra death, have it on a sesame seed-based crusket.
No.
Speaking of extra death. No, I'm serious. In 1940, the same year that she had the charges laid against her, her first husband, Frank Bowen, was shot and killed at King's Cross.
Oh no!
So what's our scorecard at? 3?
3 now. In 1943, she was going by aliases. She used Dulcie Williams, Dulcie Bowen, Marie Eugene, Tesca de Marquis, and Tesca de Marine. I know. She was using all the exotic stuff. She ended up getting picked up for vagrancy after relocating to Queensland to take advantage of the influx of American GIs, obviously in 1943. She claimed she was not involved in prostitution. How could they? She was not a vagrant. Either. She was living with her lover, de facto husband, Arthur Williams, and she had absolutely no idea he was involved in bootlegging whatsoever.
I can just imagine, like, I've seen the pictures, you can imagine her batting those big eyes at them like, I had no idea, sir.
That's exactly why I said it as I did. It's the exact same thing I pictured. Oh no, he was bootlegging sly liquor? No way!
In her best Marilyn Monroe impersonation.
I was not breathy enough for that, was I?
No.
Not quite, but you were getting there.
Yeah, that's just me trying to think about the next word.
Oh gosh.
This is what happens when you improvise and you suck at improv.
And then...
End scene.
No one then.
So come 1945 in September, her boyfriend, who was another leading Melbourne criminal, Leslie Walkerden, was shot dead in Victoria and Richmond. So we're up to 4 now. The newspaper at the time did report a mysterious brunette, Miss X, whose identity was kept a secret for her safety, who had testified at the murder trial and at one point had met eyes with Walkerden's widow. That being said, it's really unlikely that this was Dulcie. She did wear wigs occasionally, but nothing would suggest that it was her. But I'm just fascinated about how the women around this time just seemingly outlived all these powerful men at the same time.
I'm going to dare say that it's because they had the intelligence for it.
Probably more that they were never allowed to be involved in like really in-depth mob activities.
Well, except they were, because the most famous madam of the era was female, and also, what was her name? Where is it? Kate Lee, the famous female bootlegger. So it's, yeah, I don't know, but they're definitely outliving them. So the wives are outliving them, the mistresses are outliving them. It's
because they were smart enough to stand behind them and let them do what they were going to do.
this,
It's as the old saying goes in that My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Men are the head of the house,
the woman is
women
the
are the
neck.
neck.
Yep.
So they just stood back, let them go gung-ho as they would have, and just watch them drop like
It
flies.
begs that question as to whether or not women were subjugated, as was quite often the case in the time, or if they were manipulative. Like, was it a manipulation of controlling behind the scenes, or was it a matter of survival?
Bit of column A, bit of column B, depends on who you were talking to.
With Dulcie in mind in particular.
Manipulation.
You reckon?
I reckon that was very likely the case. I mean, you can play it on both ends here. On one hand, it's a case of she's a very pretty girl. She knows she's a very pretty girl. Her level of petty was she fucked the husband of her main competitor.
But did she do that because it was her competitor, or did she genuinely fall in love with the man?
That's the next question, though. Because then you have the other side of this of potentially she was thrust into this underbelly world where
15.
she became a prostitute at 15 and all of this was just very unfortunate and she was just scrambling to survive. It really could go either way.
Ness?
Without all the information, don't know.
No. Ness, thoughts?
I still roll with a little of column A, a little of column B.
No, it's probably. I mean, you get thrust into a life, it doesn't stop you from taking advantage to the best that you can.
Exactly, but
She
also
did clearly have ambition.
Yeah, she could have potentially chosen that life if she did come from a relatively well-to-do family.
True. Anywho, in 1947, she actually did stand trial for conspiracy to murder. It was the attempted murder of Velma Hull, who was the wife of Keith Kitchener Hull, who had shot and killed another gangland figure. You're going to like this one. Donald the Duck Day.
I'm sorry, what?
Donald the Duck Day. Donald Day. The duck is his little gangster nickname.
Oh my god.
Imagine that, we're sending the duck.
Ducks. Quack, quack.
Where'd you get the long from? Donald the Duck Day. Oh, not Donnie Duck, man. Actually, given that it was Australia, that would probably be worse with an Australian accent, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Where'd you get the loan, mate?
Gosh.
Oh, I got it from Donald the Duck Day.
Oh my god.
Nah, mate. Nah.
You're pulling me leg.
You must be chockers, mate. No one in their right
straight.
mind goes through Donnie Duck.
Oh my god.
Anywho, Mr. the Duck was shot on.
Okay, we need to calm first because
Mr. the Duck was killed in January 1945. And obviously, shortly after, there was an attempt made on his wife, Thelma. However, the charges were dropped after another pair of gunmen were actually charged with the attack. So she actually had nothing to do with it. Again.
She's just sort of slipping through here,
But
isn't
she's
she?
also very much in the wrong place at the wrong time or with the wrong people. Like, are you lucky or are you unlucky?
I relate to the
It
ship
kinda
magnet
comes
lifestyle.
Look, it comes down to it.
Just made me
There's
guffaw.
bad luck. There's bad luck. There's attracting the wrong sort. But sometimes you do have to just look at it and be like, are you really that unlucky? Or are you doing something?
Yeah.
And I say that in the sense of, is she really that unlucky that all of her lovers seem to kick the bucket? Or is she on the sly making them disappear?
Well, I mean, she was...
when they're no longer relevant.
She wasn't around for at least two of them.
Just because she wasn't around doesn't mean she didn't have a hand.
True.
Exactly. What's not to say you can't, set it up so that way you're out of town while it's happening.
Pay some services to some folks.
This is true. And at
and
that time,
given the time frame, it would have been a lot harder to pin down that, hey, they paid to have this person killed, because they didn't have the internet. And people weren't usually willing to flip and inform.
No, especially not if you were like knee deep in.
Because if you're already a professional killer during the 1940s and 50s and you had that many kills under your belt, it's better you go down for one than to out the person who paid you and then go down for the entirety of your track record.
For sure.
For shits all my pretzel.
In 1951, in September, she was actually shot in the hip at a party that had turned violent in St Kilda, Victoria. It was her
Ouch.
house party.
Rough.
I don't know if the shooter was involved.
She's just sitting there singing like, it's my party, I'll cry if I want to.
Somebody's like, well, I'll make you cry.
They were trying to pop a cap in her ass and they missed and got her hip instead.
It's pretty close.
Now, I couldn't find information on whether or not the shooter was at the party or crashed the party or what the hell went down there, but during a party, she got shot. The brother of her boyfriend at the time was also shot and injured. And her boyfriend at the time, Gavin Walsh, was also shot and he died.
That brings our scorecard to 5.
Rough.
Yes. He was the 5th man to die from the shadow of the curse that was romance with Dulcie May, was what the Sunday Mail said.
Oh my god, I want my headstone to read that.
I'm just saying, I do love how extravagant they would report things back in those days. It was like, they didn't even try to dial it down. It was like, the shadow of the curse.
Fuck facts.
Dramatic and sensationalized. Love it.
Absolutely.
You can see people swooning and fainting as they read it.
Oh, for sure. And
I'm doing that right now.
Idolizing the lifestyle. I mean, I'm definitely in like this glorification moment of violence right now. But 3 months later...
Oh, look, it sounds glamorous and so fun, but fuck that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't actually want the danger, but like the glamour and the hairstyles and the aesthetic, and it's like, oof, feeling all of that.
Look, who doesn't want to get shot in the hip? Like, seriously, best feeling ever.
Not the kind of shooting you're thinking of.
Are you sure? I'm pretty sure it would get rid of the like tightness and the knots.
Pretty sure it'd leave me with a limp too.
It did actually leave her with a limp.
Not the kind of limp you want.
That just made me think of the Ariana Grande and Nicki Minaj song. Bye, got me walking side to side. Yeah. So 3 months later, while she was still recovering from the shooting, she remarried again. This time to Leonard Redder Lewis. Redder is his little quotation marks name. He was shot in April 1952, but he survived.
All the best things happen in April.
Preach.
He survived, after which they separated and did eventually divorce. I think she actually...
Because he didn't die.
Possibly. Or it was possibly the fact that she'd gotten shot like only the year prior and didn't really want to be around guns or shootings. Possibly. Just,
Could be.
you know.
To be fair, I'd understand that. It's like, well, I'm out. Bye.
Yeah. It's different when other people were getting shot. Now I've been shot and I don't want to deal with that ish.
Heck no.
Hey man, survival instincts.
Absolutely. Now, in 1957, she actually faced court for soliciting for the last time before she retired. Then she did end up actually standing before a special federal court for not having filed a tax return in 1957. Now this, she was found guilty of.
Do you know how hard it is to file tax
Tax evasion.
for that line of work? Even now.
She was found guilty and fined £50 and £1 in costs. Now, to remind you, it's £4 a week is a male wages at the time.
Yeesh.
Yeesh.
That's pretty steep.
That would have been so expensive.
Now looking at the where's my calculator? Right. So what's the average weekly wage at the moment? Would you say?
Average weekly wage now, I wouldn't know. I'm on welfare, bro.
I don't do average because I work part time. I'm gonna go at about the $900 mark. We'll just say the lower end of. So if we go that by how many times does that go into that? 50 divided by 4 is 12.5 times 900 would work out to a bit over 11,000 today.
Ew.
That's just going off of current weekly wage.
Gross.
Low end wage as well. So I mean, if you went for the upper end, you'd be looking closer to the 1,500 mark. I mean, upper end for like working class. Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. We're not talking about like wealthy people here.
We don't know them.
We don't know them.
Shoves nose in air.
Absolutely. Reverse snobbery happening here.
Oh man, I wish I was one of those wealthy people that had mummy and daddy buy them a boat for some reason. I wouldn't know what to do with a boat, but it would be nice.
No, I don't want that. That'd be gross. So in 1972, she decided she was giving up the life forever, and she married her final husband, Martin Rooney. Now, he always said that they tried to forget the past, and she wasn't pretty Dulcie. She was his wife, and he didn't care where she came from. She was a wonderful housewife. She took great care of him and their home. And she actually ended up outliving most of her contemporaries from the Razor Gang era. She did actually die in 1976, April 20th, in a house fire at her home on 12 Moore Street, Bondi, New South Wales, for anyone who's interested in being super creepy and stalkerish and scaring the crap out of the current homeowners.
I will.
That is a sad way to go, though. House fire.
I read on one of the articles that it was the result of her falling asleep with a cigarette in her mouth.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That would do it.
That was the only article that I could find that said that, so grain of salt being taken here. And so her funeral was held at St. Patrick's Catholic Church in Bondi, again, for the creepies. I'm just insulting our potential fan base here. Her eulogy was actually given by Detective Frank Bumper Farrell, which is
Can you say that name again?
Detective Frank Bumper Farrell.
What a name. Can you imagine it, though? It's like, oh, there's Detective Thumper. He's after Donnie the Duck.
Oh my god, it sounds like an outrageous
I'm not
cartoon.
sure what accent that was.
Bumper, are you crazy? You can't touch the duck. Sounds like Bambi gone wrong.
Man. In regards to our fans, look, we can call them creeps. They can be uber creeps.
Segue. So the funniest thing about her eulogy being given by Detective Farrell was that he had actually once told a judge that Dulcie was completely beyond redemption.
Aren't we all?
But it didn't stop him from giving a eulogy anyway. And it's not the only time that a detective had spoken. Well, I don't know if you'd say highly. There was another detective whose name I didn't actually take down, but he decided that he would rate the women of the era, just a few of them. Now, he rated Dulcie at a 12 out of 10.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
He rated
And
Nellie Cameron at about a 7.
Oof.
Oh.
savage.
You remember me mentioning Kate Lee, the bootlegger?
Yeah.
He rated her a
Yep.
-2.
Ouch.
Oh,
Yes.
ow. That's rough.
Yeah, it was super misogynistic, but them was the days. But it just goes to show how
That is the gender.
we love men here. We're not misandrous. We love men.
We do.
Really?
Really,
You two
it's
are
just
not helping.
wow.
So, obviously, with her death and all of the media surrounding Dulcie, they definitely sensationalized it an awful lot, even to the point where in 2009 there was an exhibit at Sydney's Justice and Police Museum entitled Femme Fatales, the Female Criminal, and she was actually featured in the exhibit as said femme fatale. I mean, there's a book written about her life called Angel of Death, Dulcie Markham, Australia's most beautiful bad woman. Like, you can't get more sensationalized than this woman.
But there's also no evidence.
Well, as far as I can tell, she did not have a hand in the deaths of anybody.
She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
She was just involved with people who happened to get killed. But as I say, like,
I
the
wish I
media.
was.
Savage.
There's 2 of my exes out there.
She says with so much love in her heart. But yeah, so you've heard the whole kit and caboodle. What do you think about the monikers she was given?
I think it's a little unfair.
Do you think?
I mean,
No, go Lex.
again, on one side, on one side, you can look at it as the sense of, yeah, okay, she probably had everything to do with that, and it was all her fault, and she did this, that, and the other. Other side to this, she very easily could have just been a very unfortunate person that ended up at the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, without deep diving, we're just not gonna know.
I don't even think a deep dive would help because the information needs to be there to dive into.
And the only records we've got are newspapers.
Very true. It's not that easy to deep dive into old cases, not without going into archives. And you can't always gain access to those, not in Australia.
I was actually going to say I did actually read the original articles on this one.
Ooh.
That's cool.
I was going to say one of the pictures that I've provided, 2 of the pictures I've provided, I think, are actually part of original articles from the era. But if you think about it as well, even the newspapers never suggested that she was involved with their murders. Just that there was a curse on any man who dared to love her.
Kind of like how there's a curse on, like, the Kennedys, I guess.
The other thing to think about as well is, right, she was a prostitute. There were a lot of men who loved her who didn't get murdered.
Well, yes, there's a lot more men that loved her that didn't die than there were those who did. Again, people just love to sensationalize things. They're going to say that something is cursed, even if it's not. They're going to blame someone for something, even if they've actually got nothing to do with it.
Well, the media is also all about, selling a story.
Of course.
So, of course, they're going to ham it up as any which way that they can.
Especially when you consider the fact sex
And
sells.
she even sells sex.
Exactly.
Exactly. Sells twice as many papers.
Rip a years.
So what do you think, Ness? Unlucky, cursed, manipulating the situation in order to off her lovers?
Well, I want to say unlucky, but there is that skeptical part of my mind that goes, yeah, maybe she did have a hand in it. But without being close to the situation, you can't really sort of like vibe check that. And yeah, so I can't say for dead set certain what I actually think, but I am a little suspicious on it. I do want to believe that she is just unlucky. And given that it was a high risk lifestyle she was involved in, of course, you know, things like that are going to happen.
People gonna die.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it is a really wild story and it's been very entertaining. I've loved listening to it. And
I
maybe
love
it is just
researching
that. It could just be a wild story.
It really could be.
Does actually remind me. Have either of you seen the movie Jolene?
No.
Starring, I think it was
No.
Jessica Chastain. It was actually based off of the Dolly Parton song.
Oh.
So the idea is it's following from Jolene's perspective, going through life of, you know, attracting men and ending up in unfortunate situations as a result. This actually really reminded me of that movie. Just the whole never-ending search. And I think that because I've seen that movie and because it was Jessica Chastain, I'll look up as I'm talking, because she portrayed such a complex and vulnerable character who, whilst being alluring, very, very Jessica Rabbit, you know, I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way. I felt kind of an affinity with Dulcie for that. So
Yeah.
let's see. Yes, it was Jessica Chastain. Yeah, watch it. It's worth a look if you're into dramas and, you know, sex and death and stuff.
I'm here for sex and death.
I'm here for drama. So long as it doesn't involve me.
I can watch from a distance.
Yes, sip the tea.
It's nice. Yeah, tea time and crime.
Oh, yeah.
One of these days I will actually get a tea going with this. Not while I'm hosting. Next episode. But yeah, so that sums up the life, the fantastical, sensational life of Dulcie Markham, Australia's most beautiful bad woman.
My only one question, though. Her death, they said that she fell asleep with a cigarette in her mouth. Do you think there's a chance that it was actually a hit that they managed to cover up nicely?
I don't think so. There was pretty much nobody left who wanted her dead.
Fair enough. If they were all dead, then she's pretty much
And
off
also,
scot-free.
because she hadn't actually been involved heavily in the gang wars, just with the gangsters, there was no real reason. And with her being out of the life again, there's no real reason for anyone to go that far out of their way.
No, that's a fair
Say
fact.
at that stage, she was in her 60s as well, wasn't she? Yeah, 14. Yeah, 64, I think that is.
Yeah, she would have been in her 60s.
Yeah.
Probably rocking that purple rinse.
Hells yeah.
Who wouldn't?
I will.
I would now.
I already put silver through my hair just to give it that more silvery look. I'm waiting for it to go grey. I've only got 3 grey hairs, but I'm waiting.
Hair to go grey as well, so it costs me less to bleach and go ridiculous colours. It's going to happen. I've got enough kids. Producing another one, so, you know, I'm speeding the process.
Oh boy. I'll light a candle for you.
Several.
One for each kid.
Yes, and then an extra one for my uterus because of the lack of elective surgeries going on at the moment. So that's all we've got for you today, ghouls and creeps. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get into contact with us, you can find us on Instagram at
Strange Colony Podcast.
Or you can catch us by email on
strangecolony@gmail.com.
Then what?
And then we just all say goodbye.
Bye!
Bye!
Later, Gators!
Bye-bye!
Stay away from them lazy gangs.
Yes.
I
Keep away from the curse.
Fatales.
I'm just drawing so many blanks today.
Baby brain will do it.
Yeah,